Right, so I saved for last what I personally found to be the most difficult part of anatomy to learn, and that is the forearm. The forearm muscles are difficult to learn not only because there's so many of them, just exterior, outer muscles on the forearm that are visible, but also because of the way they move. When the wrist twists, when the radius overturns the ulna. So the first muscle we're going to go through is a minor muscle that's not important really to memorize. So I want to first get out of the way. I think they're kind of important to learn only because they kind of give a mental picture of how the hand and forearm work, but they're not visible, so they're not really important to learn for drawing anatomy purposes. So we'll start with the first one. Because these aren't that important to memorize as far as how to draw for anatomy, but kind of important to learn how the arm moves and why it moves the way it moves. It might help you with when drawing the figure and logic of figuring out like how the figure moves and stuff like that. Anyway, so you don't have to memorize how to draw this necessarily. This is just a quick educational thing. You can just watch me draw it really quickly just so you know it's there. And also, I guess for the sake of completion, I will do it. So this first muscle is the flexor digitorum profundus, and it attaches to the upper part here of the ulna, and it attaches to the tips of the flanges of these four fingers, not the thumb. So the tips of the fingers are called the flanges. We'll get into the hands and feet later, but just know that that's what they're called. So it kind of has an angle where it attaches, and it attaches like this. It follows the ulna at first like straight like this. This is going to be a tendon part once I do draw it. And then it kind of almost looks like it overlaps the radius, and it ends up somewhere right about here before it starts splitting up. Almost right in the center of the hand, like so. Each part then splits off, and they almost act like tendons, and most of these are tendons. Part of it's a muscle, then it comes down to tendons. So I'll just kind of draw the part that's muscle first, and then it transforms into tendons, or it connects to tendons. The tendons attach way up here to the tips of the flanges of the finger. Remember, the fingers have three major divisions. The first ones are the actual part of your hand that isn't the fingers you move, and the last three are the digits of your hand, the part you flex and move around. And the very tips of the ones, the little tip pieces, are called flanges. So that's what this is attached. Each of these are attaching to that, to the flanges, to the tip of the flanges. All right, might as well go ahead and turn that also into the tendon that attaches to the bone there. Let's go ahead and just draw a few of these little white lines and a few dark red lines. There we go. I'm not going to draw on both sides because, again, this isn't important to memorize. It's just know that it's there. Right, so that's the flexor digitorum profundus. It helps forming your hand into a fist. Interesting that the forearm, as complicated as it is to learn to draw, in my opinion, it's a very simple mechanism as far as to design it. You have muscles that are basically attached to wires. The muscle flexes and it tugs on the wires, and the wires cause the hand to move. In this case, it pulls the tips of the fingers down like that and forms a fist. So it's a very simple mechanism. And we'll see there's quite a few more of these little tendons that attach to different parts of the fingers and allow the hand to move in different ways when the muscles flex. Then you have the opposite flex, which allows your hand to open back up again on the other side of the forearm, which we'll get into. Now the next muscle we're going to draw is also not terribly important to memorize, but still, as far as superficial, that is the outer layer to draw. It's mostly covered, but I guess part of it can kind of help in when you're drawing a figure. Nonetheless, we'll draw anyway. This one lies over the one underneath it almost completely, but it's a little bit bigger, but it almost is the exact same shape and lies right over it. And this muscle is called the flexor digitorum superficialis. And what will happen is it has three different heads, and the heads are just known as like the connecting points. It's where the muscle connects That's all it means by how many heads a muscle has. As its major connecting points. So its major connecting points are up here as part of the humerus bone, right? This end part of the humerus bone, part of the ulna, right in this area here, and then part of the inside here, or this ridge. There's like a ridge part here of the radius. Those are the three places that the muscle attaches to through a tendon. And then, but the muscle only takes up a small portion of the actual look. It's just a small portion right here. Then it connects to another tendon, and this tendon follows along this muscle here, and the tendon breaks off, and it goes underneath what's called like the carpal tunnel, is how people usually look at it. It's like a tissue that wraps around the wrist. Anyway, it goes underneath that tissue, and it follows along these same tendons here, except these tendons will end up splitting off in little V's and connecting to the second digit of the hand, of the fingers, which allows the one underneath it to pass between and connect to the tip. So I'll go ahead and draw that really quickly here. In this case, I'm going to actually draw the tendon first, since that's the part that is mostly tendon. So it kind of has a thickness here, and kind of connects like this, connects over here. Again, comes down, follows the shape of the muscle underneath it. And because this connects to the second digits of the finger, you can imagine their purpose then is to pull the second digits of the finger, allowing you to make different hand expressions. So again, this goes right over the top here, but then once you get to that second digit, it kind of turns like that, like little V's at the end there. I'll go back over that in just a second. First, I want to go ahead and add the muscle on here. So I add a couple lines that go like that, and then down here as well. That way the gray lines are already there. Kind of a bluish gray. The colors on my Cintiq differ slightly to the colors on my monitor. Find a dark color. I want to get a darker kind of bluish color down here. I want to kind of show the shape of this. That, you know, it has this kind of V shape, as you can see, like that. Right, so there you go. Hopefully that shows the separation there. You can kind of see the separation between again, I'm going to draw a couple of darker lines in here. Alright, so that's the flexor digitorum superficialis. You know, again, you could memorize this if you want. It's really not super important to memorize. Really, with the forearm, really with the whole entire body, it's mainly the muscles that are visible that you want to memorize. And we'll also be going through a body map. So after we learn all the muscles, how they move, where they attach, things like that, things that we have been learning, and I believe that's very beneficial. To know where muscles attach is so beneficial to drawing human figures, because I've shown how you'll be able to mentally go, okay, if my arm's up here, I know this muscle logically has to stretch like this because it's attached to this part of the bone and this part of the bone. And because it's attached to these different parts of the bones, I know if the arm moves up this way, the muscle has to change and contort and change its shape. So you can logically figure out how muscles should look based on that. So it's really important that you don't skip it and you memorize and learn where muscles attach. But this muscle is not so important. Right, so I'm thinking whether or not I should cover the unimportant, well, I don't know, as far as human anatomy or the drawing the human figure, they're not that important. The ones on the back side of the arm. Alright, so now we'll be drawing on the back side of the arm. And the muscle we're going to we'll start with is the ansoneus. It's going to attach on the ulna, so the kind of the outer part of the ulna. Excuse me. Sorry. I'm going to do the right arm because that's what got confused there. I was working on the right arm before, and I want to continue working on the right arm, and so that's what I was thinking I was doing, and I got confused. Anyway, I was like, wait a minute, that don't look right. So it's going to attach to the humerus here, to the outer part of the humerus, and it's going to roll over the elbow. The elbow, remember, the elbow is part of the ulna. So it's going to wrap over that and attach to this kind of outer part of the ulna. Right, so the shape it has is something like this. It kind of attaches like this, comes across the elbow portion, runs along a little ridge right here, attaches like so, and it kind of has a shape like that. And has a little bit of ligament on this side, not ligament but tendon. And we'll draw a few lines going through like that. A few dark lines coming through. This helps extend the elbow. It also helps you straighten your arm when it's from a bent position. So you can straighten your arm from bent position to a straight position. This muscle is partly superficially visible. By superficially visible, I mean that when we draw all the muscles, you'll be able to see part of this muscle here. It's going to be partly covered as well. This part here will be covered a little bit. If you want to go ahead and draw it a few times, dedicate it to memory, you can, but honestly, I don't feel it's worth learning, because when you draw the human being with all its fat and tissues on, its skin and everything, this muscle isn't going to really make a difference. You're going to have your elbow in here, and this should actually be probably a little bit lower. Probably should come down a little bit lower like this. So I'm going to go ahead and change that. You'll have your elbow, right? When you draw on the arm, you're going to have this part coming down here. You have the elbow. You have like a little tendon coming down. You'll be able to see this, outer muscle here. You'll be able to see that like a little indent here, and maybe a little indent there, and that will all be kind of shaded a little bit in there. And that's pretty much what you're going to end up drawing when you draw the backside, the elbows and arms. So that muscle really never makes much of a difference. But if you want to go to memorize it, you can. But I'm not going to have you draw it from both sides. So just draw it from one side, and that's fine. But if you really want to be super hardcore, I guess you can go ahead and draw it from both sides. And it kind of wraps under the elbow, kind of up here. Just doing a quick drawing of it. Okay, like so. Right, so some more muscles that aren't really visible is the supinator. It helps assisting in turning the hand back around when your hand's facing downward, when your palm's facing downward, it helps it turn it back to where your palm's facing upward again. So it has a look like this. Well, first it connects to the inside here underneath this muscle. It connects a little bit to the ulna. And it comes like this. And it wraps around and attaches to, we can't see from this angle, but attaches to the other side of the radius. And this muscle kind of twists and turns when these bones overlap. We'll get into how these bones crisscross each other when you turn your hand facing down or your hand facing up. Let's go ahead and add some details to the muscle. Again, this is not a muscle you need to memorize because it's not superficial. It's not something you're going to be able to see. But just covering it so you know it's there. Alright, so before moving to the backside and continue on, let's go back to the front. There's one muscle I wanted to cover briefly, and I'll do it on this side. This is the pronator quadratus, and it's covered by these two muscles that we covered over here. It attaches to the insides of the ulna and radius, just a small little muscle. This helps in turning your hand over to where you can face your palm down. So that's known as pronation, I guess. The fibers go this way. Pronation is when you turn your palm facing down, and supination is when you turn your palm back facing up. Alright, so it's just that little tiny muscle like that. Alright, the next muscle we'll draw is going to be a muscle that will be on the back side again. Or from the back view is the easiest way to draw it. And this muscle helps to extend the thumb and also assists in bending the wrist outward. It will connect to the inside of the radius, so right about here. And it will come down and it's going to form into a tendon and connect to you have the tip, the phalanges, and then you have your second knuckle there, or the second bone. And this is known as the phalanx or the phalanx. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. Maybe it's phalanx. I don't know. Doesn't really matter to me. You can look up how it's pronounced if you're interested. Connects to that second part right there. So it's like that. This is mostly a tendon. From here down it turns into a tendon. That tendon connects to that second knuckle. You can see how the muscle flexes and it causes that second knuckle to bend inward, just as if you had a wire connected to a kind of artificial muscle. You just kind of flex the muscle and it pulls on the tendon. It's really simple. Very simple process how it's all designed, but works efficiently. Like so. And there you have it. So it's a simple little muscle. I don't know, did I even say the name of that muscle? Anyway, it's the extensor pollicis brevis. Sorry. The next one is the extensor pollicis, I think that's how it's pronounced, longus. Sorry, it's the abductor pollicis longus. So it helps in assisting to bend the thumb. It connects down to more of the tip of the flange, the bottom part of the tip of the flange. It also helps in turning the wrist outward when the palm faces forward. Wait, I'm sorry, I got myself confused. That's not the muscle I want to draw yet. The muscle we're going to draw now is the extensor pollicis longus. So the longus and brevis together actually help form that little indent in your thumb. And this isn't quite drawn right. This needs to come more thin like that up to the top of the thumb. Anyway, it helps if you kind of take your thumb and kind of pull it upwards, you can form a little indent. I wish I could show you. I'm doing my hand right now. It's kind of hard to do, but if you flex your thumb just right, you can kind of form this indent. And it's caused by these two that we're about to draw. So the extensor pollicis longus and brevis, and this is the brevis. Now we're going to draw the longus. It's just a little bit longer. It attaches up here to the ulna, right about here. Runs down, and it connects to the tip, the end part of the flanks of the thumb. So it's the tip of the thumb. So you have like your tip, the flanks of your thumb. It connects to the end part of it, not the tip part of it. This also insists in bending the thumb. And between these two muscle tendons is where you can see that little indent in the thumb. It forms a little indent in your thumb when you move your thumb just right, like a little, almost like it's like right on the knuckle, and it kind of forms a ditch. The next muscle we're going to draw is the extensor indicis or indicus. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. I'm sure it's one of those two ways though. It starts as a tendon that connects down here, and this actually connects to the tendon of the extensor digitorum, and we'll draw that muscle. It's an outer muscle that's similar to the under muscle we drew, and it connects to it helps pull the hand back out. Once you make a fist, it helps undo your fist. It pulls your finger straight again. We'll get to that muscle in a bit, but first let's draw this muscle. So it attaches to the tip of the flange, or the the end of the phalanx. I'm not sure how that's pronounced, but end part of it, just like with the thumb one we just did. Follows up the finger like this, like a wire. Comes around and attaches to this inside, right about here, of the ulna. Just a little muscle, like the other ones. Right, like that. Right, the next muscle we'll draw, and it's worth learning and memorizing because it actually is visible. It's a superficial muscle, well, most of it's visible at least. And this is the supinator. The supinator, it helps assist in turning the lower arm from the hand facing up to the hand facing down. So to turn your palm facing downwards. So it connects in two different parts. It connects to the outside of the bottom outside of the humerus. Here, let me go and get the red. On the bottom outside, or not bottom, about the middle outside of the ulna. About here. And it's just a small muscle, and it goes like this. Go and draw a few white streaks, and the rest will be dark. Like that. There we go. This has a shorter tendon ratio. Okay, there's that muscle. We'll go ahead and draw that on both sides since it will be a superficial muscle. That is, most of it will be visible. And you want to learn it from both sides. Again, the reason why we learn muscles from both sides is that way we don't have to translate it in our brain and go, okay, well, I know it attaches here and about here. It's not quite the middle, it's more of the upper part, I guess, of the bone. Actually, I think it goes down a little bit further than that, like I did the other one. So remember, it attaches more about here and here. So, but learning it, when you draw it both ways, memorize it both ways, it will increase your drawing ability tenfold. Well, I don't know. I can't put an exact number on it, but you should be able to draw much easier from your memory when you know both. You have it memorized from both directions. So it's definitely worth taking the time to do that. Right, so go ahead and draw this muscle here from both ways. You can draw it straight like this, or you can have it more curved. That's kind of up to you. But go ahead and draw it a couple times from memory, or from reference, and then draw it a few times from memory. And it's a pretty easy muscle to memorize, kind of how it works, so you should be able to do it pretty easily. Next muscle we'll draw is the flexor pollicis longus. This is not a muscle worth memorizing because it's not a superficial muscle. Nonetheless, I'll show where it attaches. It attaches to the top part of the radius. So it attaches here to this top part of the radius. We won't really be able to see it, so it's going to attach up here. Like so. It's going to be covered anyway. Comes down. Has a shape kind of like this. Again, it's going to be covered, but finally ends in a tendon that comes here, comes down, attaches to the flanks, the tip, the bottom part of the tip of the thumb, that tip outermost bone. Okay, the rest of it's going to be all covered. Right, the next muscle is mostly viewed from the back side. It is called the abductor pollicis longus, and it attaches up here to this part of the radialis right about here, to kind of the inside of the radialis right here. That's where it rises. Just a little bit below the supinator, I guess. Dang, wrong color right about here. It's a thin muscle. Comes like this. Then it turns into a tendon. The tendon runs around and it connects to the first metacarpal, which is that first bone that makes up the thumb there. It connects right there to that side. Okay. So that's the abductor pollicis longus. Sorry for those people that like know Latin, or whatever the origins of the words and know exactly how to pronounce them. If I'm butchering them, just forgive me for that. If I happen to be butchering them, and just know that you can look up in a dictionary or something how to pronounce them correctly. But I think I got most of them correct. All right, the next muscle we learn is partly superficial, meaning it's partly external, so it's worth memorizing. And this is the palmaris longus. And so, what was the one that I said was partly? I can't remember if I told you to this one here. I think I told you to do this one. Draw it a few times from reference and from memory. If not, then do that. So this will be a muscle that's viewed mostly from the front side. That's visible from the front side. So the palmaris longus is partly visible, like I said. First, we'll go ahead and draw the tendon part, which connects up here to the humerus. Right, and then it continues down across the. I need to draw this up here. Across the ulna, like this, and then it becomes a tendon again. The tendon is thin, like a wire. It runs down and connects to the all those little bones we'll get into later, like so. Forms kind of a triangle. I'll make sure I show the shape of that muscle there a little bit. And tendon. Like so. And actually it's not going to bulge out that much on most every person, so let's see here. Let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and erase some of this here to about there. And then we'll bring all this, well, let's just have this visible for right now. It's going to be more wrap around here, come off that bone a little bit, the humerus bone, and then it's going to come kind of indent inwards like that, like it's wrapping around. Then it's kind of coming more straight like this. Make sure we're accurate with this when we're drawing. And this way, for when you're drawing skinny people, you'll know like how the muscle should be. The muscle's more developed, it might look a little different. Where how I had it a second ago, where it bulges out more. But that's not really important to learn individual muscles like that. Right, so there you have it. And then I think I had some of it on this layer too. I can go ahead and erase now. There we go. So that's more of how it should look. Let's go ahead and draw on this side as well, since it's a muscle that really needs to be learned from both sides. So draw on that side a few times to get it memorized. Draw a few times from reference, a few times from memory. The same thing here, it kind of extends out of the humerus bone a little bit, and it kind of drops in and connects down here. Thin line comes up like that. It has a little bit of a muscle right here. Alright, that's the basic shape of it. It does overlap that little muscle, by the way. And don't worry, all this might seem like overly daunting at first, but we're just going to get through the muscles, and then when we go through an actual more of an outer importance of the muscles, like especially when we do the body map, which will be just like black outlines of all the major muscle groups and their major shapes, that will be easier to memorize. That body map will be easier to memorize, and the forearm actually becomes a lot easier to memorize once you understand the underpinnings. So all this is going to stay in your knowledge. The reason why I'm teaching it this way is this is what's going to happen. It all seems daunting at first and overcomplicated, and why am I learning all these individual tendons and muscles? What's going to happen is it develops a neural network in your brain, an information data bank. If I only teach you the outer layers of the muscles, the body map, you're never going to be able to draw the body from imagination like you can if you know this information first. Knowing where major muscles attach will help you understand how the muscle is going to transform and morph when the muscle is flexed, when the arm is stretched, when the arm is pulled back. And it's going to help you do dynamic poses from your imagination, which is something you're not going to be able to do very naturally if you only memorize body maps. That's why this is so important. That's why we're taking so much time to go through all the muscles. So you don't have to spend so much time here. I'll be honest, with the forearm muscles, you don't have to spend so much time like learning each individual muscle. A lot of these muscles aren't even visible. You can wait till we go through it all. Just kind of draw along with me for the first time. Unless I specifically tell you you should learn this muscle and draw it a few times, like I did with this muscle here and this muscle here, because these are mostly superficial muscles. Once we draw the superficial muscles in the body map, then those muscles are the ones you're going to go, oh, okay, I know it attaches here and attaches here. So when the arm, when this turns over, when the radius turns over the ulna, when the hand spins over, when the palm faces up or the palm faces down, causing these bones to crisscross, I know this muscle connects here and it connects here. So when this muscle here, or excuse me, if you know where a muscle connects, like let's say to the humerus and then to the radius, remember the radius is on the outside when the thumbs are facing out, the radius is on the outside. The radius will turn over the ulna. When that happens, you know this muscle is going to turn over with it. And when you know all the major outside superficial muscles, the outer exterior muscles, the visible muscles, when we draw all those muscles, I'll tell you, okay, this is the outer muscle. You need to definitely memorize this. It's important. And then the body map, which only shows a few of those lines of the outer muscles, will totally make sense now. And then you'll be able to go, oh, okay, now I know why this muscle turns over when the palm's facing down. And you'll understand why and how to draw it that way. You'll be able to intuitively figure it out. It'll all make sense. So it's really worth going through this. You don't want to skip this stuff. All right, the next one is a quick one. There's no need to memorize it. And it will be drawn from a back view. And this is the extensor indicus. Just going to draw it quickly. Sorry, we already drew it. That was right here. My bad, forgot about that. The next muscle we're going to draw is the extensor digitorum. It is a superficial muscle. I recommend learning it. We'll be drawing it from the out view, or the outside view, the back side view of the human figure. So we'll be on this back side view here. It's important to memorize this muscle, so we'll be drawing it also on both sides of the human body to memorize it from both directions. Right, so this is an extend. The extensor digitorum is an extend over all of the muscles and all of the outside tendons on the hand. It's a total superficial muscle and tendon, and it will go under a ligament that goes across the wrist here, and there's other ligaments in the knuckles. It actually goes over the ligaments of the knuckles, but it goes under this ligament that goes across the wrist. We'll get into that later. Let's go ahead and draw the basic shape of this muscle first. So first, though, it helps. A couple things this muscle helps with. One, it helps with extending the fingers outwards, so help to spread your fingers apart. It also helps in the coordination of all your fingers and the movements of all your fingers. So there's a lot of muscles we've discussed so far that connect to this outer part of the humerus bone. And all those tendons kind of become one tendon, and this is really no different. So it's this bottom part here. We'll go ahead and draw the tendon first. And in fact, I think I'm going to draw the whole entire shape of this muscle with this tendon color first. kind of connects like this. So kind of is thick, but kind of comes around the other side more. I'm actually not going to draw it that way. But instead, it should be a thinner muscle. It should come around that way more. Like it should actually protrude outside of the radius a little bit, like that. That's more of the shape it has. It comes down here and then it starts splitting into different tendons. And the tendon structure is interesting. So it comes down here like this. It connects a little bit past, so it passes over the carpal bones of the wrist. And then it attaches at the middle phalanx of each finger. And we haven't gotten through the hand yet, so don't pay too much attention to that yet. I'll go through it again when we go through the hand and show where they're attaching to. Right? And then it has like an interesting shape to it where there's like tendons connecting them together, like the wires are connected with other wires. And I accidentally drew over some stuff here. Can't remember if I already drew it there before. Okay, so it actually technically doesn't come underneath the tendon we drew there before, not draw, we drew. And it kind of connects over like this. Comes down. This one connects over like that. And this one connects over like that. Okay, so that's the basic shape here. Right, next we'll draw a couple of lines. And then we got to draw the muscle. The muscle starts from here and up here. This is the muscle the tendons are attaching to, or the muscles attaching to those tendons, I guess. Makes sense either way you want to look at it. Right, we'll draw a few highlight strands, a few dark strands. Finally, I'm going to separate this muscle with black. We can really see the outer part of the muscle here, like so. I might have those a little bit too far. These might be a little too far down. Fingers need to be a little bit longer than that. But anyway, there's 3 of them nonetheless. That's the important part. There's 1, 2, 3. So a little bit down more like that. Right, so this muscle is an exterior muscle, and so it's important to memorize. So go ahead and memorize this muscle here. We'll also draw it from the other side. This time I'll draw the majority of it in red. Keep in mind, this isn't the outer portion of the arm. There's still 2 visible muscles that we can see from the back view that form the outer side of the arm. And also keep in mind, this is the back side of the hand we're drawing, not the palm. So we're drawing the back side of the hand here. Right, so connects to that area. I gotta draw the tendon there. Tendon comes down like this. And then it's going to stretch back into tendons. Each tendon's going to come down, come down, come down, come down. And then branching over like that. Right, so that's just really quick. Right, so that's how it looks. Go ahead and draw that a few times from each side. From reference, a few times from reference to get a hang of it. See how the muscle feels, and then draw it a few times from memory. So like I said, this is an important superficial muscle that's going to help you draw forearms better from memory. All right, so this next muscle is also a superficial muscle, so we'll be able to see it from the outside, and so we want to memorize this one as well. This is the extensor digiti minimi, just kind of a ridiculous name when if we're not Latin speaking. Even then, it still might be a ridiculous name. So it starts here, the same place, the same tendon up there, right, and it runs right alongside the muscle we just learned. And just go like this, then turn it back into a tendon, and run it down this outer finger here, the pinky. And indent, so you'll have two pieces, the tip, the second piece, and then end it right at the end of that second piece. That's where it ends. Again, we'll get more into those pieces of the hand when we get to the hand. And maybe one highlight there, and kind of separate this with some. So this comes in handy when you're drawing the backside of the forearm, and you know, okay, so you have like this backside forearm, you're drawing it. Let's go make a new layer. I'm going to delete here. And you know you have a couple outer muscles that come out like this and comes down. And so you're drawing your forearm, and now you know, okay, I can draw in this kind of dent here, this kind of dent there, maybe draw another dent here. And so now you're starting to learn where you can draw the dents in the forearm, or the little muscles, that are flexing, and drawing someone with a lot of muscle, a lot of definition. When drawing this muscle again from the other view, just remember it's an inside muscle. When you're dealing with the back side of the body, which is where you see this, it's an inside muscle. It's inside, it's toward the pinky. And if you see it that way, it's an inside muscle toward the pinky, it'll help you memorize where to draw the lines. When you're drawing this muscle, you'll know where to draw it at. You'll be like, oh, that's right, it's an inside muscle toward the pinky. So if I want to draw the lines for that little muscle, I want to draw inside. Right, so you'll have those two lines like that to be drawing inside. This muscle here, though, should be a little bit bigger. Somehow I got it thinner, not sure how that happened. If you notice you make any mistakes like that, just go ahead and fix them. Okay, so we're moving along with the forearm. We're starting to get into muscles that matter more of how the character looks on the outside. The next muscle is also an exterior muscle that will be visible from the outside, and it's going to form the very outside of the arm, and to be outside here. This will be the flexor carpi ulnaris. Right, so this flexes and helps bend the wrist outward. So you can bend your wrist like this, side to side, like you're waving your hand. So all these little bones in the hand are called carpial bones or medial carpial bones, and that's it's going to attach into some of those. That's where it's going to attach into. So it again. So it's on the inside, the pinky area. It attaches to these same tendons up here, or you can just call it one big tendon because it's a big massive tendon. It's on the humerus bone there, and runs along the edge, outside edge here, and comes down, and it's attached to this metacarpal area here, the pinky side. So just remember that this is on the pinky side. Right, when you're looking at it from the front view, it's on the pinky side of the arm. Or you can call it the ulna side of the arm. whatever's easier for you to help you memorize it. I just want to show that separation between those muscles there. And there you have it. So you see the arm is going to start taking shape now that we're adding all these muscles. So go ahead and draw that muscle a few times from reference and a few times from memory. Pretty simple muscle to memorize. The next one we're going to draw is the extensor carpi ulnaris. This is another backside muscle. And it's going to connect down into the carpi area, those little bones in the middle of the hand there, the little bones that we'll learn about. It arises in the same area here, kind of underneath all these other muscles we've been doing. Attaches down here to this middle carpi area. It's not really important exactly where it attaches down there. I mean, it's just know that it's down there. It kind of gets lost underneath this other one, the digitorum, so it's not visible, not really that important because it gets lost. A few dark lines here. But now what we're starting to see is how you get these lines in the back side of the arm. See, now you can start to see, oh, okay, those are those two lines, these muscles. So when you're drawing the back side of the arm, you have that other muscle here, and then you have a line here, a line there. You can have another line there, and you can just, you're drawing your comic book, and it kind of helps you know how to draw that flexing forearm. It could be seen very daunting at first, but I'm telling you, it will get simpler as we move along and draw more of the muscles. Let's go ahead and draw it also on the other side. It just follows. It's pretty easy to memorize because it follows right along with them. It's an inside, and it just follows right along here. It hides underneath that, comes up here. And there it is, boom. It's just another little muscle that follows right along with the ones we already learned. So it's like a parallel muscle. And I think that's the easiest one to memorize when they're just all parallel like that. And then so you have these two thin muscles. So you have this one kind of thicker muscle and then two thinner muscles. And that's pretty easy to memorize. So remember from the back side, on this outer side, it said there's two more muscles. That stand out more than this one. We're going to draw one of those muscles now, and then we'll draw the next one. So this is the extensor carpi radialis brevis. If you don't want to get too technical about it, first let's just draw it. It kind of connects here to the same area, to the humerus bone. Like that. It wraps underneath some of this down here. So it goes over this, but then goes over and under, so over this right here. So first we're going to just draw it like this really fast. Then we'll get into the more technical aspects of this muscle. Right, like that. Let's go and draw some blue right there. And it goes under these here, like so. Right, now we'll get to some specifics about this muscle. So it attaches to, like I said, to these same tendons here. It's like one big tendon attaching this outer part of the humerus bone, and it comes down and it, like I said, it slides underneath here and attaches to the metacarpal area of the middle finger, or that first metacarpal bone. You have this bone, metacarpal bone, then you have your actual finger bones, which there's three of them, two, and then you have the tip, the phalanx, or the phalanx. So you have 1, 2, 3, and this bone here is part of the actual hand. So your knuckles here is where your first knuckle where you punch with is. This is actually part of your hand, like your palm, and it connects right there to the end of that. All right, so that's where it's connecting, just so you know. Let's go ahead and draw it on the other side as well. So we're starting to get a feel now for all these little lines, and we will also learn how all these little lines look, these little muscles look when we draw the arm in different positions, different dynamics. But first we have to learn the basics, which is what we're doing. And then when we start getting into dynamic poses and stuff and twisting the arm and moving around different areas, we'll already know where these muscles attach. Boom, they attach here and here, here and here. So when the wrist twists, we'll know, hey, that muscle has to go with that middle finger. So when this hand twists over and the palm's down, this muscle has to run across has to twist around as this hand. This is the back side of the hand, right? Your top side of the hand. This isn't your palm. This is the part you punch with. The palm is the underside. So when this turns over like that, and then the palm is now facing us, this will be the palm now, we know that muscle has to turn around and go over with it. And so we'll see a few of these like lines as it twists over, and we'll learn, when we draw it from those different views, how it looks. At this point here, you definitely want to go ahead and maybe take some time to redraw all these muscles again and how they look from the back side. So take the time just to draw those muscles from reference and then from memory a few times. And then also maybe take the time to draw a few of these three main muscles here from reference and memory a few times, just to kind of make sure they're solidified in the brain. That is these three muscles right here. Right. The next muscle we're going to draw is the outer muscle that gives the arm its full shape here. We're only going to see a part of it. A lot of it's going to be buried. It has more of a thicker shape to it. It doesn't extend out that high unless you're really buff, but it kind of has a thicker shape to it like that, and then gets down thin. But we're only going to be seeing part of it. The rest of it being hidden from perspective. We'll draw more of it from the side view when we get there. This muscle helps pull your wrist back. Like if you're gonna get down on your knees and do a push-up, the way you have to move your wrist back to put your palms flat to do a push-up, it helps do that. Now this one will actually, so the extensor carpi radialis longus will actually, it'll still connect up here to the humerus bone, but a little bit higher up here. It'll come down, and then it's going to connect to the carpial area of the index finger rather than the middle finger. So remember this one here, the brevis went down and connected to the carpus of the middle finger. This one connected to the carpus of the index finger, or the pointer finger if you want to call it that. I used to call it the pointer finger. So it connects up here. We're only going to see a part of it from this back view. We'll see more of it from a side view. Let's go ahead and make sure we keep this separated with a dark line so we can keep our muscles separated here. Like so. So you have these two little muscles on each side of this bigger muscle from the back view. All on this side at least of the arm. What I meant to say is on this side of the bones that we can see. We'll have a couple more muscles on this side, but on this side we see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 muscles that you can see. Alright, so two little ones on each side of the big one, and knowing that they all roll over as the wrist turns down, as the radius, this radius overlaps the ulna. Right, so let's go ahead and draw that final muscle there really quick. Again, it starts from up there. Being careful not to erase or color over the muscle right next to it. Kind of disappears like that from this view. Again, we will be drawing it from the side view once we get there. I wanted to cover all the muscles first though in the forearm, from the views from the front, at least from the front and back view. And then after that, we'll go ahead and redraw we'll draw the muscles from the side view after we know them all, and then we'll only be drawing the exterior muscles that we can see. Alright, so now we have a very important muscle, probably the most important muscle of the forearm, and this is what you kind of want to measure all of the muscles against. When you know where this muscle goes in relation when you're drawing the arm, you should be able to figure out where all the other muscles are. And this is the brachioradialis. From the front view, where we're going to kind of see it is like this. So it'll kind of cover this bone a little bit. And it's going to come like this. And it's going to run. Has kind of a thickness to it like that. And it's going to run along this edge of the thumb all the way down like so. Right, that's what it's going to look like. Now let's get more into the details. Right, so this muscle, what it does is it raises the forearm up, bending the elbow. Right, so its two insertion points, which are important to memorize, is it's going to be, let's see here, where is this other muscle? that we just drew, it's going to be a little bit higher on the humerus than that bone. So on the humerus bone, it connects a little bit higher and comes down. It connects to the part of the radius. So this bottom part of the radius right there connects right there. So you'll see a little bit of tendon there, a little bit of tendon. Actually, the tendon kind of comes up to about this high, and a little bit of tendon there. And we'll draw a couple highlight lines, a couple dark lines. Now you can start to see the shapes. That's why you have, when you draw the arm, right? If you have like your shoulder area, and then your pecs coming off. When you have your bicep here, when you're viewing the front end, and then maybe you see a little bit of the tricep back there, and you have this muscle between there, then you have so from the we'll do it from the side view. So you have the brachioradialis, you have the brachialis, which is between the tricep and the bicep, right? If you remember that. And so you have like your bicep here, your tricep, right? Then you have the brachialis that you can kind of see between those. Then right here, another muscle comes, that's the brachioradialis, that comes down like that and goes down to the thumb. And so from this front view, what ends up happening then is you can see, because since it's wrapped around the back a little bit and from the side, and since it's so high on the humerus bone, it kind of comes out like this and down at the side of the thumb. And then this side, the muscles don't attach as high on the humerus bone. They attach to this bottom part. Remember, the humerus bone kind of looks like that, right? So these are attaching there. So they come down like so. But this muscle, the brachioradialis, it goes higher and attaches to the higher part of the humerus bone up here. And because of that, you get this angle in the arm. This angle here that you can see, where this curve is higher than this curve down here. And knowing that, how to draw that will help you draw the figure so much better. Let's redraw the arm again. So you have like the shoulder area coming down, then the bicep, just quickly, then that outer part and the inner part coming down. Boom. Then you have your pec muscles coming down. So when you draw it that way and knowing why it's that way, now you're learning why it's that way. And so you won't have to think so much as you're inventing. You won't have to go, okay, there's this thing. You'll just know this connects up here, this connects down here. That naturally gives you that look to the arm. So you think about the lines, it kind of naturally gives you this look to the arm, like that. Okay, let's go ahead and draw the brachioradialis on the other side over here. Remember, it attaches up here higher to the humerus bone. It's kind of a thick muscle. Comes down to a thin tendon. Connects to the inside of the radialis, not to the thumb, to the actual radialis, that end part right there. I'm going to draw the next muscle we're going to draw is the muscle that fills in this missing gap here on this side from the back view, and that is the flexor carpi ulnaris. It helps in flexing the wrist and bending it outward. It attaches to two areas. It has a V shape to it, kind of, right here, and the V shape attaches to two areas. So one area is what basically we would call the elbow, which would be here. and the other part is the outer part here of the humerus bone. And it kind of comes down like this and like this, so it creates this V shape, and then it's like comes together as one muscle. And as this muscle comes down, just kind of draw the overall shape of it here. It gets thinner and attaches to the metacarpial bones down there, the small ones next to the sorry, I lost my train of thought. Next to the pinky area. I think that crazy sometimes the brain just like farts on you like that. Alright, so again there's that V shape where the tendons break off. Right, so this is how the muscle is going to look. So from the back view, remember you'll have big muscle, two muscles attached to each side of it, and then you'll have kind of a gap where you'll actually be able to see the bone kind of in the arm a little bit from the back view, and then you'll have this one muscle which kind of looks like two muscles, but you have like the two, we'll just call it one muscle, or if you want to think about it as two muscles, think about it that way as well. And from the inner, looking at it from the inner view, like that, when we look at the inner view of the arm from different positions, we'll see we can see more of this muscle. It'll have more visibility. And that's pretty much it for the back side of the arm. That makes up the overall shape of the back side of the arm. We actually can usually see a little bit more of this muscle here. And let's give it more form, because it's usually going to come out a little bit more like this. Right? And then it'll have that V shape there. That's more of the actual shape of the muscle there, like that. So this gives us this this angle here, this angle here, right? So it gives us that. Well, rather, this angle should start up here more and then come down like that. So it kind of gives us that angle there. So you have the point here, you have this point down here, and it gives us that angle. Point up here, and then the point down here. And that's the basic shape of the muscle. So let's go ahead and draw it on this side now. Again, remember it attaches to the outer part of the humerus and then the elbow, basically. That part of the ulna which is known as the elbow. And it comes down, attaches to the carpi, little carpi bones down there. And there you have it. I kind of made his forearms quite huge. It's a habit from drawing a lot of comic book type characters. Big forearms, big muscles. So this doesn't have to extend out this far. You can make it extend out a lot less. Right, but there you go. So now we have the back side. You know what? I really don't like that, so I might be able to get away with not redrawing it though. Oops. I love that tool. It's pretty cool. So that allows me not to have to redraw the whole thing. Still, his forearms are quite large, and that's fine. I can just make him thinner, or he's Superman buff forearms, you know, Popeye type forearms. Right, so that pretty much covers all the muscles, I believe, of the forearm. Right, so now that we've learned the forearm muscles, what we're going to do is we're going to go back in and redo them all, but this time we're going to draw from all the different angles, and this will be the next, it'll be a different video, so that's not going to be part of this lesson here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to erase all this for now, because what we're going to do is redraw it all. But we're only going to draw the outside muscles because that's all that's necessary. So if you want a map with these inside muscles, it's not going to be it's not actually going to be part of the Photoshop file, because they're not important muscles. So if you need them, just go back to the video and you can watch them. Rewatch that part and you'll see those under muscles. Pause this while I do this. Alright, I found it necessary just because I always thought this was the hardest part to learn, to go through this extra hour rather than just going through, okay, let's get into and start drawing the arm from different angles. I figured this was important enough to learn all the different muscles and how the arm works, a little bit about the mechanics of the arm, the forearm, and how the fingers move and stuff, that these muscles flex and pull on these wires, these tendons, and cause the fingers to move in different directions. And to see their connecting point endpoints, because knowing their connecting point endpoints will help you when you're thinking about how the arm turns and twists and everything. Now I'm going to break it down. In the next video lesson, I'm going to break down the forearm into its more simple surface muscles and how to think about the forearm in a way, hopefully the way I think about it, which will hopefully help you see the forearm in a much simpler way as grouped muscles. Kind of like hair can seem like a very daunting task to learn how to draw it all marble style with all these different, or realistic style with all these, crazy curls and everything. But if you think about the hair as a couple simple clumps with a bunch of like interlocking pieces in between that, each of those lumps, then really the forearm, you could break it down to really memorizing just kind of like 3 basic forms. And then there's all those little muscles in between there. And you kind of already learned all those little muscles, and hopefully some of that stuck in your brain. And you did do the exercise a little bit to learn those muscles. You have that big muscle on the back side, and you have the 2 little muscles attached right next to it. Then on the opposite side of the arm, you have the V muscle. Then the underside of the arm, you have that outer muscle by the thumb, the brachioradialis, and then you have the major muscle, kind of the V-shaped muscle going across, and that being we think about this, the pronator teres, that goes across kind of diagonally, which causes that V kind of shape pit in the under part of your arm there. Anyway, and then there's the 2 outer muscles on the outside of your pinky on the underside of your arm that you kind of memorize. When you memorize these kind of 3 chunks, it just makes it that much easier to draw the forearm. And then especially when we do like the body map, and then we break down the body map to like a more simple mannequin and how to draw the body map onto that mannequin. Those are just little tips and tricks that I've learned along the way that's helped me draw from my imagination. And I'm putting all that into a super anatomy course that's going to help you. And I believe this is going to completely replace my old figure course, to where this will be the only course you'll need for figure drawing. Alrighty, woohoo! Done with this lesson.